All right, guys, we're going to get started. I appreciate all the help. I was running behind tonight when I got here and the tables were set and everybody was working and cooking. And so I really appreciate that. And if you've ever eaten a left-handed turned pancake, tonight you did. That's pretty talent when you can turn them with your left hand. But thank you to everybody that helps. We couldn't do it without some good help. I got a couple of little stories that I'll start with. One of them my daddy shared with us. He was on the way to the farm one day, and there was a fella right there at this Greenwood Cemetery going out of town, and he was pacing back and forth in front of a tombstone. His hands were flailing up there, and you could tell he was kind of in a bad way. Daddy didn't pay no attention to him until he went to the farm. He come back about 3 hours later, and the guy was still there in the same place, pacing back and forth. He thought, I need to stop, at least speak to the fella. So he did. He eased up on him not to scare him or surprise him or anything. And the fella was saying, why'd you have to die? Why did you have to die? I can't believe you've gone and died on me. Why did you have to die? And he figured his wife had passed away, so he put his hand on his shoulder and said, Sir, I'm sorry your wife passed away. How long was y'all married? He said, my wife ain't dead. That was her first husband. Have you ever noticed there's not a gate on the cemetery that stays locked? I checked into that, and they said it was something about election interference. Tonight, as you can tell, we're going to have a little bit of fun. I mostly want to talk about men, fathers. We have one day a year that we can be recognized, and that passed us a few days ago. But probably what I'm going to talk about tonight would be better if I talked to the ladies' fellowship, but I don't think I'm going to get that invite, so I'm going to share it with you guys tonight. We're just going to try to have a little fun. Maybe we'll close on a little more serious note. But I don't know if you know this, but men really don't understand women. I don't, and I don't know if you folks do, but women will look at you and they say, why don't you just listen? You never listen. And in the very next breath, they'll say, won't you say something? Say something. Why don't you just talk to me? And then I've heard this one, and I don't hear this one a lot, but I have heard it. So I don't tell you my troubles for you to try to fix them. And that's what men do. I mean, we are fixers. We fix things. So if you don't want us to fix troubles, don't share them with us. All right. How many of you guys pick out your own clothes? Now, I don't mean T-shirts and blue jeans. If you were going to a funeral and you were going to pick out your tie, how many pick out your own tie? That's better than I expected. Typically, I get one of my 3 ties, and I hang maybe 2 of them in front of the shirt I'm going to wear, and I ask the boss which one of these 2 because I only have 3.
Sometimes you have to ask Walter to be no more there.
That's right, Harold. And sometimes when I don't ask, when I'm leaving, I'll get this line, are you going to wear that? Well, really, I was just going to go out and check the weather, then decide what I was going to wear, okay? And every now and then I'll get out without her catching me, and it'll be, did you wear that today? And well, all day? You wore that all day? I said, well, no, I changed in the truck on the way home this afternoon. In their own defense, I did show up to practice here one Sunday morning. Mr. Randy probably remembers it. I had on a black shoe and a brown shoe. Now, they were both Croc shoes. They were both the same kind of shoes, so they felt the same. But quite often, I drive in from Sneed's Ferry, and I dress in the dark. And I drive here, and I get out of the truck and run in here to practice, and I didn't notice there might be a little something blocking my view from what color shoes I have on. But the praise team noticed, and after I informed them that I had a pair at home just like them. One of them looked at me and said, "Tying out of town?" I said, "Well, I left in the dark. All my fault this time." Here's something I really don't understand. Women, knowing our opinion of clothes, will go in her closet, put on 2 shoes, one black and one blue, one black and one brown, whatever, come out and say, "Which one of these you think look the best?" Now, if you're fairly freshly married, I'll give you the answer to that. The best thing you can say is, which one is the most comfortable to you, because I think both of them look really good. I'm probably digging me a right big hole because my wife watches this stuff when Glenn puts it online. But I ain't scared. Might better be. 3 rules to a happy marriage. I got this from Andy Griffith. Don't pet a tiger unless his tail's wagging. Don't play leapfrog with elephants. And never, ever, never, never, ever, if she asks you, "Does this dress make me look fat?" do you respond at all. And you certainly don't say, "Well, sugar, I don't think it's got nothing to do with the dress." Moses won't be able to help you with that one, and he parted the Red Sea with a stick. So if you were here last June, we talked about me, and I try to do some theme through the months that has something that I can decide a theme about, that I can come up with something to talk about. But June, we typically talk about men. We have pancakes, try to invite the kids, grandparents, anything that we can do to stir things up a little bit. So this year, as well as last year, I'll repeat some stuff. But men, if you look up paternal, that is the father's side of the family. The same root word for paternal is the same root word for pattern. I think there's a reasoning behind that. We are to be a pattern for our kids. They will follow in your footsteps, good steps or bad steps. We are patterns for the kids. Fathers are very important. It's recorded in the Bible somewhere just over 1,100 times the word father is in the Bible. But my line is, it ain't easy being a father. It ain't easy being a man. So we're going to repeat that a few times tonight. We're said to be the head of the household, and that's biblical. Ephesians 5:23 says the husband is the head of the wife. I heard a fine Christian lady say one day after the preacher had a sermon on that, said, "Yeah, the husband's the head, but I'm the neck that turns it." I didn't find that one in the Bible, but I'm not going to argue with it either. But it's not easy being a man. We're set to be the provider for the family. Timothy 1:5, chapter 5, verse 8 says, "But if anyone does not provide for his own, and especially for those of his household, he has denied the faith and is worse than a non-believer." If you don't provide for your household, you are worse than a non-believer, according to Paul's writing to Timothy. And we are stated to be the provider for the household. It's not just the household, though. It's the community, the church, your business, your job. We have to provide things, money, income, of course, as well. We got to provide love and discipline, and encouragement. And it's hard. It's hard to get a good mix of all that. We have to work, but at the same time, we have to be there to support the family. And it's hard to be at work and make every school program and make every ball game and make the dance recitals and the piano recitals. Somewhere in there, there's a fine line, and I've yet to find it. I think I've crossed it a time or two, but I cannot seem to lock in on that line. I'm just telling you, it just ain't easy. I've been looking for that fine line for about 25 years. It still escapes me. I know it's there. Maybe I've got a glimpse of it a few times, but something changes in life and we don't get to hang around that fine line very long. The pattern I spoke about, I've talked about my family, my life, not to put us on a pedestal or to any particular reason other than those are the stories that I know the best. And if I embarrass somebody or upset somebody, it's me or my family. So we'll have to deal with that a little bit tonight, now and a little bit later. But the pattern I had was my father, and he was a great provider. Always looked out for the family. Now, I don't know that he made a lot of ball games, very, very few, and never a school program, but we never were without something that we needed. But again, it's not easy to be in both places. I shared this verse with you last year, and I really like this verse, and I think this in itself is a pure message. But 1 Corinthians 4:15 says, "For though you might have 10,000 instructors in Christ, yet you do not have many fathers." Paul wrote that 2,000 years ago, roughly. I don't know what he'd say if he looked around today at what's going on. The verse previous to that says, "I do not write these things to shame you as my beloved children, but to warn you." And he's not warning in a harsh or scary way. It's an informative kind of warning that, hey, we've got to be fathers. We've got to be the pattern. And we're short on fathers. There's, according to Google, there's 19.5 million kids born annually on an average. 19.5 million. 25% of them born to a single mom. 1 out of 4, 1 out of 3, somewhere in that range, is born with no father in the household. No father in the home, no pattern in the home. I'm told the Latino race is 62% and the black race is over 70%. And when those kids raise kids, that grows because the pattern is not there. They don't see the need of a father, so they don't stay and be a father for their kids, and that snowball has grown bigger and bigger and bigger. And it's tough on kids without a father, without a pattern, to be successful. Typically, they follow in the father's footsteps, which is not good. If that's the situation you're in, you're not doomed, because there are great success stories around, and you don't have to look very far. President Barack Obama, raised by a single mom, 2-term president of the United States. Vice President Harris was raised by a single mom. Vice President J.D. Vance was raised by a single mom in a very volatile home. I don't know if you've ever read his book about the hillbilly eulogy or whatever it is. It is quite funny, but he had a tough go. He should not have made what he's made of himself, and he made it of himself. But if you ever got a chance to read his book, it's well worth the read. But all very successful in spite of being raised without a father in the house. They broke the mold, because that's typically hard to do. Going back into the Bible, the 5th commandment says to honor your father and your mother. Made the top 5 in the 10 commandments, so I think that's very, very important, to always honor your father. Now, I've heard older ladies when I was a kid growing up, haven't heard this in quite some time, but I've heard older ladies say, "I know Daddy's got shortcomings, but you better respect him. It didn't matter if he had his shortcomings, you better respect him." The mama in the house was going to see that the father was honored and respected. Don't think that's the case now. I got another thought while I was doing this. I got to thinking, what if you're hard to honor? It's another thought. Be easy to honor. Be easy for your kids to honor you. I never thought of that before I was putting this together, but I thought maybe I'm not as honorable, and I hope I'm better than I was, and I hope I can get better still. But there's a time in my life when I didn't deserve any honor. I was not doing what I needed to do. But we've always got a chance to do better. We got to have our eyes open. And I was reading, again, the story about being easy to honor. Noah's story popped up after the flood. They say he made himself drunk and lay naked in his tent. He made himself drunk. His choice, his option. Noah made himself drunk. He made himself hard to be honored. One of his sons, I believe it was Ham, exposed his nakedness, mocked his father. And the other two sons, Shem and Japheth, put a blanket on their shoulder and walked backwards into the tent to cover the father's nakedness without mocking him, without shaming him. Ham was cursed to serve Shem and Japheth descendants through eternity over that one plan. And it was Noah's fault. He made himself drunk. He didn't make himself easy to be honored. But the descendants of Ham paid for it. I think of the story of the book with Jacob and his 12 sons. You know, Jacob was to change his name to Israel. He was the father of the 12 tribes of Israel. He had one son named Joseph that was born, the firstborn of Rebekah. Rebekah was his favorite, but she was barren for a while, couldn't have kids. God opened her womb, and her firstborn was Joseph, his favorite. He made him a coat of many colors. He built this kid up in front of all the other brothers. This is my favorite. This is my favorite. And they despised him on account of it. Jacob made it hard for himself to be honored because he chose a favorite and made Joseph's life miserable for a while, if you know the story. Beginning to close here, I'll tell you about my 4 sons. The oldest one's a pastor. He's got a local church between here and Lillington. He works really hard. Overly responsible. Always looking out for other people. Great passion for the lost. Always trying to help some drug addicts and people, try to get them back on the path. He might not have had the best pattern growing up that we've talked about, but he's good as gold and doing a fine job and working for the Lord. But he's really not my favorite. And as my daddy says, that second boy, Joe's, he's running a chain of hospitals today. He was named the youngest CEO in America. He was named the youngest CEO hospital administration in America. He just got the seat in the chairman of the board for the National Hospital Association, again, the youngest ever. But he keeps his family in church. He posts devotions on Facebook constantly. Very successful, but he's not my favorite. As Paul says, that third boy of Joe's has built a pretty good career in the fire sprinkler business. Did the sprinklers in our church here in our new addition. Works really hard. He started from not knowing a fire sprinkler from a fire hydrant. And now, in just a few years, he can sell the job, draw the job, buy the materials, install the system, and make it active. He knows it from one end to the other. But he keeps his kids in church. He's a deacon in my son's church. Very active. His church wouldn't be what it is without that third boy. Fine young man, but he's not my favorite. And then, as my daddy says, that least boy of Joe's, that's the youngest one. He's worked for me his whole career, poor fella. It's hard work for your daddy. That's all I've ever done is work for my daddy. It's tough. But he's father of 3 kids. He just sent his wife home to homeschool because they weren't real happy with the public schools. His girls were starting school. They keep their family in church. The 2 little girls and 1 boy, but the 2 little girls can sing every worship song that we play on Sunday morning, word for word. You might not understand it, but they know the words. They are in church and they pay attention. Fine young man, but again, he's not my favorite. All 4 boys raised in the same household, raised with the same pattern, good pattern, bad pattern, all different but unique in their own way, but all good boys. Neither one can be my favorite. I love them all equally. Not one more than the other, not one less than others. That's how God is. He loves each one of us equally. No matter if you started church last week or 50 years ago. If you got saved, you're a child of God, equal to all of us. Not a favorite anywhere. if I think of my family again, and I look at the nation, the statistics, the averages, this will really scare you, really. But when I look at the statistics, at least 2 of my sons should have gone through a divorce. Divorce rate in the U.S. is 52%, and it's gotten better than it was a few years ago, mainly because people have stopped getting married. They've started just living together. There's not as many marriages as there was. So 2 of my 4 boys, if the statistics hold true, should go through a divorce. This is what really scares you. I got 11 grandkids. Christmas is loud at my house. According to the U.S. statistics, at least one of them should commit suicide. Probably 2 or more would attempt it. Suicide rate has dropped actually from 15.9% to 15.2%. I see young people starting to turn back to God. It has taken 20 years probably of a decline, and for the last couple of years, I can't put a finger on why, but I see that coming back. They're coming back to church. They're looking for something better than what the world can offer them. And I see these statistics are starting to show, and I think that is very, very important. But without that pattern that you and I have to be, those statistics can't keep improving. That pattern is very, very important. Did I say it wasn't easy? I think I've said that a couple of times. Final thought. Some of my best friends are here tonight in this room. Got a brother here. Grew up in this church. I was born here, raised here. I know all of you guys. Like I say, some of my best friends around are here in this room tonight. I was listening to the radio, and you know I talk to you a lot about listening to AFR, but there was I'm assuming it was a black preacher, but he was preaching. Now, he was putting the word on, and he told his congregation, he said, look, I got 4 boys at my house. And I thought, well, I got 4 boys too. He said, I love all of y'all. I love each one of you. He said, but I wouldn't give neither one of my boys on their worst day for one of y'all. Neither one of them. He said, but the Lord gave his son for all of y'all. And ain't neither one of you better than the other one. Ain't neither one of you worse than the other one. But God gave his son for one of y'all or all of y'all. And I wouldn't give my boy for ne'er one of you. I thought, you know, that's pretty cool. But again, final thought, I'm getting like preacher. Where's he at? Closing. We're closing again. We're head of the house. It's okay if the wife turns the head, I think. Make yourself easy to be honored. Be honorable. Your actions will make you honorable. Remember, we're the pattern. Pattern yourself in the way that you would like for your kids to turn out. There's a young man on the AFR radio named Abraham Hamilton III. He might be Wesley's second cousin, I don't know. He says, focus a little more on the outcome rather than on the income. God will provide the income. You focus on the outcome. Now, that's a mouthful right there. When you wonder, work, relationship with the family, work, relationship with the family, focus on the outcome a little bit more than the income. Other than that, that's the best advice I've got. And I'd tell you a very late Happy Father's Day. We'll do this again July
the 26th.
You sure? Bear's got his card. It's good you can see it, Bear, because I can't. July 27th.
Oh, 26th.
Come on, Bear. You got last year's card. July 27th, if I can see. 6:30 right here. Invite a friend. Please come. I don't have a theme yet, but we'll figure out something. There are some cards back here. If you got somebody, don't worry about the mug on the front. The dates are on the back. There's some little bags of stuff we had left over at Father's Day. Marisha asked me to, anybody that would like a bag, take to someone that's shut in, help yourself. There's cards back there if you need to hand them out. Let's invite some people. But that's all I got, and I really appreciate you guys coming. And we'll close with prayer unless somebody wants to add something quickly.